For those of you who don't know me, I'll say hello. I'm Shadley. I work at AMI. I joined the team officially at the end of last year. I did Drew's podcast last week about the things I'm working on. One of the big things that Drew wanted to do was establish something like this, where we could allow or create something more consistent that would allow for some webinars that usually, or that Drew's schedule obviously would not allow for. We wanted to be able to set up something that was more consistent to offer some tools and insights to anyone that was interested. For those of you who may not know, Agency Management Institute is dedicated to helping small to mid-sized marketing companies level up in all kinds of ways with all kinds of resources and tools and just the community itself. Um, so I am thrilled to be kicking off this webinar series. Drew and I have been talking about it for a couple of months, and so it's really cool to see it coming together. I have spent the last couple days just terrified that the links weren't going to work, that the entire thing was just going to go completely off the rails.
Well, that could still happen. So let's not,
Okay, well, thank
could
you.
go completely
Thank
off
you for
the
that. That helps a lot. Um, so I will take a long nap this afternoon after all of this is done and we've all survived it together. And so our first guest, we're going to kick it off with Hannah Roth from Predictive. She is the mad scientist and director of strategy. Um, she works in the trenches to help clients define and achieve their business goals. And today we are talking about
strategic
email,
email
email. Yes, strategic email. So it's great to see everybody, and I'm going to turn it over to Hannah. I will be monitoring the chat if anyone has questions or comments. I will get that open now. And I think throughout the goal is for it to be, if you, we're not going to wait for Q&A at the end. If you have questions you want as we go along, we'll be pausing and won't necessarily be conversational, but we will try and keep it in real time rather than writing down questions and jumping in at the end. So if you do have anything you want to say, please put it in the comments and I will. Hannah will be focused on the presentation, so I'll be watching the chat room. With
Awesome.
that, I'm turning it over to Hannah. Here we go.
Okay, I am going to share my screen. So can you guys all see that okay? Perfect. Okay, so thank you, Shadley, and thank you to everyone at AMI, Drew and Danielle, and you guys having me as your first guest. So there could be two lines of thinking there. Either you wanted to start this off with a bang, or you were thinking, well, it can only go up from here. So we'll see. Either way, I am very grateful to be here. So thank you. And also to everyone who chose to participate in this and carved out time in your day. Thank you so much. I'm thankful to you for showing up, and hopefully you're going to learn a little bit more about leveraging your email content to get data. And as the title suggests, turn that data into dollars a la sales. So I wanted to start off with a few expectations. The topics that we're going to talk about today do involve a tech component. There are ways to streamline your content creation and data management within your CRMs. So depending on whether you use HubSpot, Keep, Constant Contact, MailChimp, whatever you may use, there's several things that you can implement, tags, contact properties, segments, what have you. That said, I am not a CRM expert. So I work on the content strategy and the data analysis side of things. So if you ask me questions about the tech setup, I'm going to ask if anyone else in the room has an answer. Because when I try to do anything in a CRM that isn't pulling or analyzing data, I feel a lot like this monkey. So please save your tech questions for somebody that can answer them. That is not me. So with that said, let's dive in. Okay, so why am I talking about this today?
Is that too loud?
No. Hey, Shadley, can you mute the attendees if you don't mind? Thank you.
I will do that.
Of course. Okay, so why am I talking about this today? Many of the agencies that we work with content is their biggest hurdle. Even with ChatGPT, communications are often inconsistent or the content feels generic. We hear from a lot of agency owners that, they say that they don't feel that their content is truly unique, or their point of view is lost, or they sound like every other agency. So those are pretty compelling reasons to talk about this, but I don't want to stop at consistency or uniqueness because your content is really powerful when it comes to sales, or it could be and should be. So powerful content is crafted with a sales strategy in mind. And powerful content gives you first party data that makes your biz dev process so much easier. So today, we're going to try to cover three things. We're going to work through one of the frameworks that we use to help get content out of our clients' heads and in front of their prospects. And I want this to be an interactive session and an actionable session, as Shadley had said in the intro. So go ahead and open a doc or grab a notebook and a pen because we're going to be using that later. So go ahead and set it aside. And then if you guys have questions or want to share, go ahead and open chat, talk to each other, get insights. Obviously, there's a lot of smart people in this room, so we want to leverage that and make the most use of our time. Second, I'm going to recommend a strategy, a frequency, and a cadence based on a psychological principle called Miller's Law. So when it comes to actually sending content and getting in front of your prospects, we're going to go through that. And then lastly, I'm going to show you a real example of how email content structured in this way gives you meaningful data and what inferences you can make based on the data you get that reduce friction in the sales process and help you get to an easier yes. So those are the three things that we're going to aim to cover today. Okay. So obviously, there's a lot of content platforms that you can use, blogs, podcasts, video series, social media, etc. But today, we're going to focus specifically on emails. And there's a reason that I chose this. Obviously, email has an impressive ROI according to HubSpot's annual research. It's an average of $36 for every $1 spent, and email content can generate up to 3 times more leads than some other traditional marketing methods while costing a lot less. So it's an important investment to make if you're not focused on that already. That said, email marketing is not without its challenges. So according to MailChimp, which has also been cited by HubSpot, an average of 14,000 new email marketers join MailChimp every single weekday. And I had to triple fact check the stat because I honestly could not believe it. I thought there's no way that's a typo, something's wrong, but it is in fact true. 14,000 people join MailChimp every single day. So there's an inverse relationship here between opportunity and entry point. The entry point is low. It's easier to create content with ChatGPT and AI tools. But because strategic email content has an impressive ROI, the opportunity is high if you can break that barrier and get in front of your prospects in a meaningful way. So if you can create strategic content, you're going to be up here and you're going to be able to reap those ROI benefits. Okay, so how do we create strategic email content? We have a series of frameworks. So I want you guys to know that this is part of a bigger exercise. But today we're going to focus on one because we have limited time. So I want you guys to get the most bang for your buck and the most out of our time together. So we're going to work through one. This is what it looks like. So as I mentioned before, I want this to be an interactive session. So go ahead, open your document or grab your notebook and write down your target audience. So if you are a generalist agency, or you serve multiple audiences, this framework might be a little bit more difficult. But to start, try to pick a target audience to focus on. And after the session, you can rework this framework and you can do this exercise for your other audiences. So when we think about a target audience, some examples that we're looking for this exercise, examples of a good target audience would be CFOs of regional healthcare systems, or founders of family-owned businesses, or sales managers at manufacturing companies. So pick a target audience that you want to focus on for this exercise and try to narrow it down to title if you can, because a C-suite executive is going to have different questions and pain points than a sales or marketing director. So if you guys just take a minute to focus on a target audience and start writing that down, and then I will give you some time and then we'll come back and pick it up.
Feel like we need some game show music that's like
I
dun,
know.
dun, 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 dun.
Brent, love your target audience. Very specific. CEOs of companies with between 50 and 250 employees located within 100 miles of Knapp, Wisconsin. Love the specificity of that. Great. We do need some game show music, Shadley.
I'll keep
Need to
that
like
in
cue that
for
up. That's a good improvement for next time. Knapp has 300 people and a troll in it. Does it grant wishes? Okay, so if you guys are feeling good about your target audience, we're going to move on to the next part of this exercise because this is pretty intensive and I want to make sure that we can get through as much of it as we can. So Joel, it looks like your target audience is also really good. Okay, so I'm going to put on the screen an example of one of these that I filled out based on who we serve, just so you guys could kind of see how this looks once it's filled out. So the next step that I want you guys to focus on is brainstorming some of the common questions that your prospects ask you or your team. So let's say for us, our target audience is agency owners. So we're going to use Sally because our personas are Harry and Sally because Stephen loves that movie. So we're going to focus on Sally, and Sally owns an agency. So if I were doing this exercise, I would try to think of a few questions Sally might ask me or that I hear on the front lines. So one of the things that Sally might ask is, how do I generate consistent content? So I want you guys to take 3 minutes and let's brainstorm some questions that you get, some common questions. And just like you guys are doing in chat, you're already ahead of the game. Feel free to share or ask any questions in chat because that'll also help other people in the room start to kind of get their brains going. So I'm going to set a timer because that helps me because I am terrible at timekeeping. So I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes and then we will pick it back up. So common questions. I don't know if you guys can hear the geese in the background. I live on a small lake and I think they're all migrating back to Canada right now because it's becoming spring in Florida. So if you guys can hear that in the background, it's not anything weird. It's the geese outside.
Thought maybe you had that as like your white noise background. No,
Yes.
cannot hear it.
That would be a nightmare. I'm like scared of geese. Those things are not nice. A little bit scary. Common questions. And if anyone is brave enough to throw some examples into chat, that would be awesome. Hey, Joel, love it. How do I balance between evergreen top of funnel campaigns with conversion and ticket sales? How do I identify people to move from attendees to donors? Love it. Those are great questions. Thank you, Joel, for sharing. Okay, so you guys have about a minute left. Renee, yes, I will be sharing the presentation. Well, actually, I guess Shadley, that's a question for you. Are you going to send out the presentation? I can send you the deck. Yeah, perfect. So yes, Renee, we will be sharing this. Yep, of course. Oh, Brent, these are your questions. I wasn't sure if this was a cry for help, but it took me a second to catch up here. Thank you for sharing those. I hope those are prospect questions and not questions you feel.
That's outstanding. Starting. Wrong call.
Right.
It's just not worth it anymore, folks. I need help, please. I know we want to talk about email, but I can't handle email anymore. This needs to become an intervention.
That's awesome. Brent, hang on after this. We'll talk a little bit further. All right, guys. So hopefully that was enough time to brainstorm on some common questions that your prospects ask from your target audience that you selected. So the next part of this exercise, and I see you guys are still sharing in chat, so thank you. Continue to do that because again, that's helpful to get input. So the next part of this exercise, I want you guys to go a level deeper. So common questions are usually more tactical. So in our example, Sally wanted to know how to create consistent content, or in Joel's example, it was very tactical questions about the funnel and ticket sales. So we want to go a level deeper to find the true pain point. So again, in our example, Sally was asking, how do I create consistent content? So even though the answer to that may be an example of a content calendar or a schedule, that's not her pain point. Her pain point is not, oh, I need a calendar or I need a schedule. Her pain point is time. I don't have time to create consistent content. So I want you guys to think about when your clients or prospects ask you those questions that you guys listed, ask yourselves, why are they asking this? What are they hoping to achieve? And keep asking that question until you kind of get to the root of it. And typically, when typically you find the pain point when you kind of go, well, duh, of course that's what they want. So take it a level deeper, look at your questions, and then try to figure out the underlying pain point that they're feeling related to the business. So I'm going to put another 3 minutes on my timer, and let's try to flesh out some of those pain points. Great, Joel. I don't know what's working, what's not. I don't know how to prioritize marketing investments. I don't know how to advocate for more marketing dollars. I don't know how to communicate the ROI to my boss and the board. Awesome, awesome pain points. You guys can see from that example, started with very tactical. How do I do this with the funnel? Joel moved it to very deep level business problem. Okay, I've got about a minute left. And I know we're kind of, rapid firing through this. Obviously, we've got a finite amount of time to get through quite a bit. So even if you just focus on one row, one pain point, one question, that's fine. You know how to do the exercise, by the end of it, you can take this out of the room and continue to work on this, obviously outside of this session. So don't feel like you have to mad dash to fill everything out. If you're stuck on one, just try to get at least one. All right, guys. So hopefully that was, again, I know we're rapid firing here, but hopefully that was enough time to at least think about some of the pain points. Again, not the tactical eye level questions or the high level questions, but the eye level, pain points. So the next part of this framework is to turn the pain 180 degrees in the opposite direction and list the desired outcomes. So if Sally's pain point from our example was not having enough time to create content, she wants a content engine that gives her her time back. Okay. So let's see, Joel, I'm going to look at yours here. Okay, so I don't know what's working and what's not. The opposite of that would be I have confidence that my marketing investment is going to turn into ROI. That would be, a good outcome that your target audience is probably looking for. So let's take just a couple of minutes to flip the pain point 180 degrees and figure out the desired outcomes. Brent, I think all of your solutions are just vodka. I think that's what it is at this point.
None of my solutions are vodka. That's Joel's. Joel, we should talk afterward about a coaching arrangement, by the way. There might be some things we need to work on.
Always willing to learn.
Yeah, I could insert a dorky science joke here and say, actually, technically, vodka is a solution. So I will resist.
Where are the drums? The little.
I know, but, I'm glad we're virtual. Y'all can't throw like rotten fruit at me or anything. Thank you, Camille. Stephen, you're supposed to be here as my emotional support. You can't make fun of me. All right, guys, another minute on the desired outcomes. And I promise we're going to tie all of this together, so stick with it. What's a system user?
This would be like somebody who just do code with that, like back in data analysis, stuff like that. Good luck. Tyler is the one. Tyler is the admin of the Believe actual Believe page.
Hey, Chad, can you mute everybody again?
But we're all admin. No, we're not admin. We're added users.
I don't think he heard you.
We have permissions. Oh, full control. Oh, but it says admin.
There we go. Thank you. All right.
Great, if I muted everybody, I would mute you too. So
That's what I mean. I'm just kidding. Okay, Richard, thank you. Confidence in knowing which activities drive results and which to eliminate. Yes, wonderful, wonderful outcomes. Straightforward way to show leadership or stakeholders the value of marketing efforts. Yes, framework for regularly assessing and optimizing SEO efforts for better results. Yes, wonderful outcomes. Joel, yes. Plan that I feel confident about. Know how to get the admin resources to set our strategy. Solid dashboard that offers transparency. Ooh, that's a really good one. Love that. All right, good job, guys. Those are great. Okay, so again, we got to keep moving just because we don't have a whole lot of time here. So the last part that I want us to work on today is the solution. So I know there's a relevant story section. We're not going to get to that today, but I do want to at least get to the solution. So when we say solution, it's not, and to fix this pain, give our agency lots and lots of money, and we promise you will get your desired outcome, and all will be peaches and cream. Although, wouldn't that be nice? No, the solution needs to be something helpful and actionable. So at this stage, we're fostering trust, we're building credibility, and we're standing out from the other 14,000 email marketers that are also trying to get a date. So I want you guys to think back to the question and list out. So again, the common questions, go back to the top here and try to list out 3 to 6 actionable steps that either solve the problem or solve part of the problem, something actionable. And I want to note here that if you can't narrow it down to 3 to 6 steps, you may need to break up the question into smaller questions, or you may need to create an email series. And yay for that, because then you have more content. So I want to give you guys another 3 minutes. And again, you may just need to work on one of these rows in the interest of time. So I'm going to give 3 minutes on the clock to work on the steps, 3 to 6 steps to either solve completely or at least make meaningful progress on the question. So. And we're back to vodka. I'm a whiskey girl myself, so let's like get some of that in there maybe, then I'll be interested. Yes, Stephen knows. Yep. Strategic, Jamie. The goal is if they don't like the content, they'll like the cocktails. So you've got a 50-50 shot, right?
Well, they'll like it enough, the cocktails enough, they'll like
Exactly.
the content.
Right. It's like, that's why they serve alcohol at comedy shows, because even if they're not funny at the beginning, they're really funny at the end. All right. Solutions. Steps to make meaningful progress on the question. All right, guys, you got about a minute left. Great, Joel. Great. So Joel, yours may need to be broken apart. So like a marketing audit, again, you want this to be actionable for the reader. So those steps may need to be broken apart into something small that your reader can actually do. So a marketing audit, what are the 3 platforms or the 3, pieces that they need to look at? Is it, website? Is it content? Is it social? So those steps are great for you as an agency. But for your prospects, okay, let's help them break it into smaller pieces so they can actually do something. Again, the goal is to be helpful. Obviously, the end goal is that you want them to call you guys and be like, oh my God, we need CKP's help. We want to hire you immediately. But for now, we want to offer them something helpful that's going to keep them coming back to reading the email. So great steps. Maybe try to make them a little bit smaller and more actionable for the reader.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Richard, great marketing roadmap, 6 steps to take you from overwhelm to clarity. That sounds like a fantastic ebook. If it's not already, that would be maybe a great ebook. Life, work, vibrancy, scale, last week, next week, planning process, 20 questions to grow your employee engagement. Great, Brent. Those all sound like wonderful downloadable assets. Yes, this is great, you guys. Good job. Okay, so now that you guys have your grid filled out, or at least mostly filled out, or at least you know how to fill it out. Here is how you're going to use it to hopefully create strategic email content. And I want to say this can obviously be used to create a variety of content. It doesn't have to just be used for email. This is a great brainstorming tool. But for now, again, we're talking about email. So turn your common questions into subject lines. Those are, you know, easy things. These are things that people care about. Obviously, that's going to have a pretty good open rate because that's something that they ask you. It's something that they're interested in. So the pain points or opportunities should drive the content and the tone. And we're going to get to the data piece of this in a bit, but this is what we're going to use to drive some of our data and the insights. So keep the pain points and desired outcomes in mind, and we'll come back to that in just a minute. And then the solution or the actionable tips, that should be something that you should share and obviously be helpful. So here's just a quick example with the elements, you know, 5 time-saving ways to generate consistent content. This is, again, going back to Sally, our example. Creating content can feel like a full-time job on top of your full-time job. That speaks to her pain point of not having enough time. The good news, there's an easier way. Try these 5 simple steps. Here's, you know, a quick solution that she can hopefully do in 15 minutes or less. You know, blah, blah, blah. Piece of helpful content speaks to the pain point, solves a problem. Yay, Sally's probably going to open another email from me because she probably found this one helpful. Okay, so you can see there how all of the elements come together to create an email that resonates. And so when you guys are doing this, you know, it doesn't have to be a long thing, but try to create something similar that, you know, keeps your target audience opening your emails and coming back. Okay, so now that you have your email grid and some of the pain points and you're on your way to creating these emails, I want to talk about cadence and frequency because these are also questions that we get a lot. So we recommend a 7-to-1 email cadence where you send 7 nurture emails like the ones that we just walked through. And then that is predicated by 1 sales email. So we've got several templates for sales emails. We're not going to get into those today. Predictive is hosting an intensive in March where we'll talk about some of the sales emails. We're not going to get into that today. But we are going to focus on 7 nurture emails. And the reason that we recommend 7 is based on a psychological principle called Miller's Law. And most of you are probably familiar with this, whether you know the name or not. Miller's Law basically states that people can remember 7 things at a time, plus or minus 2. That's pretty average. Most people can remember 7 things at a time, plus or minus 2. So when we're thinking about email content, we want to share 7 really helpful things, stay at the top of mind for your prospects, and then break it up with a sales email or a lead gen email at the end of that cycle. And the frequency that we recommend is once per week. You can certainly do more if you have the resources and the manpower to generate more content, but we have found that getting content out once per week is usually the sweet spot between quality and quantity. And it usually creates consistency because sometimes we get really overzealous agency owners that are like, I'm going to send 3 emails a week and a newsletter and all of these things. And then they get so overwhelmed. And then suddenly their, you know, monthly newsletter starts going out once a year. So I would say balance what you can actually do, be realistic. Consistency is important. And most of the agency owners that we work with, once a week is usually a good frequency for them. Okay. So the next thing that I want to look at builds on the strategic foundation of the pain points and outcomes that we defined in the exercise that we just worked through. So you've identified your target audience and the 3 pain points and desired outcomes. And right now, you might not know who in your audience is feeling the pain most urgently or who is feeling one pain point over another. So in our example, maybe Sally isn't struggling with content creation at this moment. Maybe she's struggling with sales. So if we tried to talk to Sally and sell her something to do with content, she likely would not buy from us because she's not feeling that pain point as urgently as some of the other pain points that she's feeling. So this is where we want to be really intentional about building the email schedule and structure. So if we're thinking about a 7-week cadence, you know, once a week, 7 emails over the 7 weeks, we recommend trying to write, you know, 1 email that appeals to your target audience as a whole. So that, you know, is helpful and keeps them opening, keeps them coming back. Great, good introductory email. It's something that hooks them. And then we want to recommend like creating 2 emails that talk about pain point 1 2 emails that talk about pain point 2 and 2 emails that talk about pain point 3. And you should randomize these emails. So in case you're sending, pain point 1 around July 4th and nobody opens it, you're not going to get a false negative and be like, oh, well, nobody obviously cares about pain point 1 because it's a holiday and maybe people just aren't opening emails at that time. So it's good to randomize the emails, but try to get at least 2 that resonate with each pain point, because that's going to give you some good insights. So the last thing, before our time runs out here, I want to show you some real examples of how this works. So this is from one of our clients. This is inside their Keep account. That's the CRM that we work in with our clients. So we started doing the system for them back in November, and their prospects have been through enough of the cycle for us to start seeing some emerging trends. So from their data, you can see that 350 prospects are interested in pain point 1, which for their target audience is recruitment and retention. So they're an agency that serves healthcare. Obviously, that's a big deal in healthcare. So the second picture on the screen, the lead score, this is essentially a measurement of engagement. So another emerging trend that we're seeing is that conversions have a higher probability of happening once a prospect reaches a lead score of 3. So out of this data, we wanted to see, okay, where are the lead scores in the 2 range? Because those leads are probably going to have a higher chance of converting, or they're maybe on the cusp of converting. So that's the group that I chose to look at for their analysis. So there's 219 prospects that are not only interested in recruitment and retention, but they have a higher engagement rate indicating potential sales activity. Okay, so I am going to take the squeaky toy away from my dog because he is about to go crazy with the squeaky toy. Okay, so next pain point, online reputation. So you can see, whoops, right here, that they have significantly less interest there at only 207. So that's, obviously less, and then less engagement as well with 161 engaged prospects. Okay. And then last pain point is branding. They have 319 interested prospects and 239 engaged prospects. So I've thrown a lot of numbers at you. I know this is a specific example and you guys are like, what does it all mean? So we can see the data and then we can make inferences and recommendations based on that. So obviously for this client, recruitment and retention is a key issue facing this agency's audience. So they should continue to lean into that, right? Create content, have, videos, talk about it on social media, and so on. Online reputation, not so much. It seems to be resonating less. So maybe they should allocate less time and resources in creating content about that. And then branding is their last pain point, is also a key pain point for their audience. And the lead score ratio or engagement ratio is higher than recruitment and retention. So based on kind of looking at the data holistically, the actions that I would tell them would be allocate less time and resources to online reputation because it's not resonating as much. And your biz dev priorities should focus on converting highly engaged leads that are interested in branding. So when you reach out to those people, these, 319 or 239 people, you can obviously have their names, their information, all of those things. So when it comes time to send some sales emails or some lead gen emails, you know what you want to talk about because you know what they're interested in. You know that they've engaged with your content, so you can go see what types of things they've engaged with. Like, okay, do they like ebooks? Do they like podcasts? Do they like videos? And then you can continue to share and nurture that until you can kind of get them over the finish line, or at least get them to a conversation where you can talk to them about potentially helping them and stepping in to, be their agency partner. So that is how all of this kind of comes together from, okay, let's be strategic about planning our emails with, what's the question, what's the pain points, what's the outcomes. Let's bucket those into a series of 7 and figure out, okay, these 2 emails relate to this pain point or outcome. And then let's, plug that in so we can pull that data out and see, okay, which ones are resonating, which ones aren't, which leads are interested in what, how engaged are these leads? And that can tell you a little bit about who you should prioritize and what content or topics you should prioritize. And then obviously the last step is to experiment and improve. So You can create tons of different experiments. I won't, go in a rabbit hole about this, but you can try different approaches with your content. You can do story-based versus fact-based. You can get really tactical. You can talk about, different tactics related to the pain points. You can experiment with time of day, time of week, again, frequency. Maybe I send 2 emails a week. Maybe that's better. Maybe it's not. So there's all types of different things that you can do to experiment and improve. But the point is, if you don't, to quote Drew and Seven Habits and a bunch of other people, if you don't begin with the end in mind, you're not going to get all of the juice that you can get from your content and from your efforts. So if you're going to do this, or if you want to do this, let's set it up in a way that you can get that ROI and you can talk to these prospects in a way that actually moves them towards closing or towards sales. So I hope that this has been helpful. I'm going to shut up now and turn it back over to Shadley so he can talk about anything he needs to talk about with AMI, or we have time for any questions. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Shadley, back to you.
That was awesome. Thank you very much for being our first guest on this new webinar series for AMI. It's very exciting. I hope everyone has some great takeaways from all of this. In 2 weeks, we will have our next webinar on the 18th. It will be Pamela Slim talking about hidden revenue streams in IP. That's what we will be talking about on the 18th at the same time. You should have that link in the last newsletter from Drew. So that is exciting to continue this and then or to get this kicked off, and we'll be continuing this over the next several months. I have everyone scheduled through July at this point, so lots to share in the future. My email is shadley at Agency Management Institute. If you want to follow up with me directly, you can also find me on LinkedIn for anyone that may want to get connected. We are recording this, so this will be posted on the AMI website soon. I believe with that video upload will be the download of this content. I believe that's how it's going to be set up. I guess I'll put it in the Facebook group. I'll do an update in the Facebook group to let everyone know what's happening with that. And if you want to follow up again, you can email me, or if you want it more immediately, I can send it to you if you want to email me. With that, I will open it up if anyone else wants to jump in, talk. Apparently, we need to talk about vodka recipes and that kind of thing. So if anyone has any last minute questions, you are welcome to unmute yourself and join the conversation. We would love to hear from you. Any specific questions for Hannah, we can get her involved as well. So,
yes, except for CRM questions. That's a no. Just kidding.
And no technical questions.
Yes, no tech. Yes.
No one's got anything. Stephen, unmute so I can hear you laugh. It's like
Thanks, Jay.
So I can ask a question because I'm in the midst of this right now. And I've heard this content multiple times because I'm one of the PROI groupies. And I'm in the process of actually implementing this email plan. So we've got 16 weeks of emails written. We've already sent 1,000 emails out of the 6,000 that are on our list. Can you give some, and I know this gets into some of the technical stuff, but the how to get started, and just the technical aspects of, because we've gone through with DMARC. We've done the DMARC thing to make sure that we've got the bounce back abilities, and we've got authorization and all the other stuff. We've done a lot of technical stuff, and so And yet I've only got 1,000 emails out of the 6,000 on our list that we want to send out because we need to ramp up. If you do too fast, you end up hitting spam. So I'm curious, just advice, ideas, thoughts. We've been going for about a month now, and I
Yep.
don't know that we have enough information for good data yet to know how to make changes. Like we're just hitting play and waiting at the moment because it's going out, trickling out so slowly.
Yeah, and Brent, that is something that I mean, it just happens that way because you're right. If you start blasting a bunch of emails, especially if it's kind of a recently new CRM or a you're new to your CRM. So typically what we do for our clients is we titrate over time. So we set up, we set them up in Keep, and then we'll, do all the tech stuff, like you said, to get them set up and authorized and all of that. And typically what we'll do is we'll start sending out 20 a day for the first week. The next week, we'll ramp it up to 50, assuming that there's no problems. They don't get a lot of unsubscribes. They don't have a lot of bounce rates or anything like that, or high bounce rate or anything like that. And then eventually we move up to 100 a day. So we've got basically 100 people just flowing through every single day. So do you have your email sequence set up as an automation, or are you just doing one-off like broadcasts?
It's set off as an automation.
Okay,
And
so
we actually we set it up through Apollo.
okay.
Actually. So we've been using Apollo and they have a ramp up feature where it will decide how much it wants to send a day. And then when it decides to send more, it sends more. And
Yep.
I
So
don't
I would
really
start looking at emerging trends. Once your first batch of like 500 gets through the first seven emails, because and again, I don't know your specific setup, but assuming that you've set it up similar to ours, where you've got the two pain points per, two emails or whatever, or the two emails per pain point. I would, once the first 500 complete that sequence, I would start looking for emerging trends, and you can start to make inferences after that. So
Yeah,
however Apollo is kind of pushing people
sure.
through, I'm not sure what the completion date is, but usually 500 is kind of the minimum sample that you want to have.
Mhm.
So whenever that first batch completes
Sure.
the first
And we're
seven,
getting good opens
yep.
and good pass-throughs, but we're not getting clicks right now.
Okay.
And it may take, I don't know if it just takes some time to get clicks or if folks are kind of warming up and kind of figuring out, well, I don't know if I want to click on this turkey yet. Is he real? Is he not? Are they reading it? I don't know, but I know that we're getting opens. So
So what are you primarily including in the emails? Like, what is the option to click on?
I had an article to a recent article that Gallup wrote about management. I sent a set of tools, 20 questions that a CEO can answer or a CEO can ask their employees to increase engagement. We have sent some other tools, freebie tools that are useful, one pagers on this topic or that topic, whether related to employee engagement, getting the best out of your leadership team, getting the best out of yourself.
So Brent, do you feel like, because usually if we, again, I don't know your content or anything like that, but typically if we see a situation like this, you may be giving away too much information in the email, and that may be satisfying their curiosity. So they're like, oh, I'm getting enough of this information. I don't really feel the need to click
Sure.
on more. So it may be, I need to hold some stuff back and elicit more curiosity in the body of the email. Because if your open rates are good, okay, cool. People are interested in the topic, they're interested in the subject line. They may just be getting too much from the email, and then they think, oh, well, that's all the information that I want or that I can handle
Sure.
right now. So
Good point to think about. Thanks.
yeah, of course. Okay. And then Kat, I see your question in
Yeah.
chat.
Hiya. I'm from England, so hello, all
Oh,
Americans. We're very, very new to this, really. We're just at the stage where we're moving beyond getting new clients from referrals and network and all that kind of thing.
yes.
We are starting to use our CRM, starting to think about doing more kind of outbound marketing and and all the other. We're content marketers, so inbound, we've got this. Outbound, a little bit more of a challenge. And really, my question is for those of us, like, how do I even get to a point where we can even start doing this? So it's like getting those names to put on the list. And I'm assuming, just in case I've been really dumb, like you would just run the sequence once per person, right? You're not gonna, or do you then put them through another whole 7 emails or something like that? So like my question is so really basic, like how do I even start to get to this point? And I hope that at least someone else here is similarly thinking this. Otherwise, I feel really dumb.
No need to feel dumb at all, Kat. There is always a starting point, and we, work with people that are just starting. Some of the clients that we have don't even have a CRM setup. So there's all kinds of spectrum. So no need to feel dumb. There's no such thing as a dumb question. So I have a question back to you. Do you have a good idea of your target audience that you serve? So if I were to say, okay, Kat, let's list out some criteria, you know, are they findable in some sort of like online database? Can we, Google search the type of people that you want to go after, the type of businesses that you want to go after? Can we find them based on sort of your persona or your target audience?
Yeah, there's kind of two audiences that we serve, and one is marketing and communications teams at science-led organizations. We're science communicators. The other is startups and scale-ups in biotech, and I've got a good idea about how we're going to meet them and how we find them. So it's this audience that I think, which is the head of marketing at a bioscience company with like 50 to 250 employees.
Okay.
So I think I've got a fairly good idea of the kind of people who hire us.
Okay. Perfect. So the place that I would start would be LinkedIn. I would make a list of the companies that you kind of want to target that feel like right fit companies for your agency, and then I would find the people. Do you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator?
Not Sales Navigator. I've got premium,
Okay,
but we
so
don't have Sales Navigator yet.
Sales Navigator may be a good investment for you. I think it's $100 a month. I'm not sure what that translates to. But with Sales Nav, you can go into the companies, you can find the specific people, you can use all of their search criteria. So I would, find those people. And then you can use Apollo, which is a Google Chrome plugin that runs, over top, and it basically scrapes their email addresses. So you can get their email addresses. And again, your privacy, I know there's different privacy standards, so I'm not sure if they have to opt in for you to email them or not.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the, you can like have a reason to contact, but yeah, it's very difficult to send them anything too much if they don't want it.
Okay. Okay. So, Stephen, what would your suggestion be? Because I know you've worked with Apollo and kind of navigating some of those different kind of constraints.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Kat, I would suggest that you go into Apollo and actually do some research on GDPR as it relates to Apollo. So GDPR obviously applies that the recipient is in those countries is protected by GDPR. If you happen to be sending emails to life sciences related companies here in the States, it doesn't. Can spam then applies, not GDPR. And can spam, you can send cold email as it relates to can spam. It's not prohibited. And even it's a little bit fuzzy, even with respect to GDPR. We've done very basic research as it relates to GDPR because Europe is not a country that we typically prospect in. But Apollo has done there are some really good assets and resources on the Apollo website. So I would suggest, I think that you could probably still send it, but you couldn't send like a 7-to-1 sequence, but you could send that initial. But I would suggest Apollo and some of the resources.
Super, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Kat.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Stephen knows the tech stack, so that's that's really helpful. Thank you. Okay.
Any other last minute questions? We just have a couple minutes before we're going to wrap this all up. I will just say one more thank you to everyone for joining today, and especially to Hannah for kicking off this new webinar series. It's very exciting to be part of this team and to get this started. I will be at BABA this year if everyone is going to attend. I was there last year. For those who know the story of Robin's tour of the Denver hospital facilities, I was her plus one on that trip. I was with her throughout that entire evening. We're hoping that this year both of us will be at BABA fully, and I look forward to sharing vodka recipes, I guess, is the big drink this year. But I am with Hannah as far as I'm a bourbon guy, so
Yes.
You will definitely find me at the bar at least once. Um, any other last minute questions before? I'm not buying around, Stephen. Um, any other last minute questions before we say goodbye? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Thank you to
Thank you guys so much.
everybody, and look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks when we talk to Pam Slim about leveraging IP.
Woo.
Talk soon, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Have a great day. Bye.